NBC News is reporting tonight that a senior White House official says President Trump wasn't supposed to answer any questions today. His staff went into that event with the press with the understanding that the president would discuss infrastructure only and would take no questions. But once in front of the reporters, the president, quote, went rogue. That's the phrase the official used. The White House official said members of the team are stunned this evening by the president's actions. But when you see the video, it certainly looked like a premeditated decision by the president to publicly defend the comments that he made on Saturday that were greeted with sharp criticism from Democrats and, more importantly for the president, from Republicans. The president just happened to have a copy of his Saturday statement in his pocket today.
So I don't want to go quickly and just make a statement for the sake of making a political statement. I want to know the facts. If you go back to my, in fact, I brought it. What did you bring, Mr. President? As I said on, remember this, Saturday, we condemn in the strongest possible terms this egregious display of hatred, bigotry, and violence. It has no place in America. And then I went on from there.
It seems today the president was reading from the written statement that he was supposed to read on Saturday. But on Saturday, he read that, but he inserted something about many sides in the middle of that statement.
We condemn in the strongest possible terms this egregious display of hatred, bigotry, and violence on many sides. On many sides. It's been going on for a long time in our country. Not Donald Trump, not Barack Obama. This has been going on for a long, long time. It has no place in America.
The president decided to take a stand today to defend what he said on Saturday, but he refused, as you just saw, to actually quote what he said on Saturday. And today, many sides, eventually, as he continued to talk, became both sides.
Well, I do think there's blame. Yes, I think there's blame on both sides. You look at both sides. I think there's blame on both sides, and I have no doubt about it, and you don't have any doubt about it either.
So the president believes there is blame for Heather Heyer's murder on the side of the white supremacist who murdered her, and the president believes there is blame for her murder on her side. And in a truly Trumpian perversion, he believes that he knows what the reporter thinks who asked him that question. He believes that he knows what we all think and that we all agree with him, that there is blame on both sides. That brought a fresh round of moral outrage against a president who sees no difference between the side that murders and the side that doesn't, the side that has Nazis and the side that doesn't. Politically, the most significant outrage came from Republican Senator Marco Rubio, who launched an attack against the president, the likes of which we haven't seen from Marco Rubio since he was running against Donald Trump for the Republican presidential nomination. Senator Rubio tweeted, "The organizers of events which inspired and led to Charlottesville terrorist attack are 100% to blame for a number of reasons. They are adherents of an evil ideology which argues certain people are inferior because of race, ethnicity, or nation of origin. When entire movement built on anger and hatred toward people different than you, it justifies and ultimately leads to violence against them. These groups today use same symbols and same arguments of Nazi and KKK groups responsible for some of worst crimes against humanity ever. Mr. President, you can't allow white supremacists to share only part of blame. They support idea which cost nation and world so much pain. The white supremacy groups will see being assigned only 50% of blame as a win. We cannot allow this old evil to be resurrected." Marco Rubio's state of Florida was one of the founding members of the Confederacy, a government formed to secede from the Union and fight a war against the United States of America to preserve white supremacy and slavery. What Marco Rubio said today is all true. It's all obvious. But it can cost him some votes in Florida, some support in the formerly Confederate state of Florida. Senator Marco Rubio is right that white supremacy groups would appreciate what Donald Trump said today. The most important review for white supremacists who voted for Donald Trump came from former Ku Klux Klan leader David Duke, who voted for Donald Trump. After the president spoke today and assigned blame to both sides, David Duke said, "Thank you, President Trump, for your honesty and courage to tell the truth about Charlottesville and condemn the leftist terrorists." One of the leaders of the white supremacist Nazi demonstration in Charlottesville, Richard Spencer, tweeted, "I'm proud of him for speaking the truth." The lead of Glenn Thrush and Maggie Haberman's article on the front page of tomorrow's New York Times reads, President Trump buoyed the white nationalist movement on Tuesday as no president has done in generations, equating activists protesting racism with the neo-Nazis and white supremacists who rampaged in Charlottesville, Virginia over the weekend. Never has he gone as far in defending their actions as he did during a wild street corner shouting match of a news conference in the gilded lobby of Trump Tower, angrily asserting that so-called alt-left activists were just as responsible for the bloody confrontation as marchers brandishing swastikas, Confederate battle flags, anti-Semitic banners, and Trump-Pence signs. Joining us now, Eugene Robinson, Pulitzer Prize-winning opinion writer for The Washington Post and an MSNBC political analyst, and Yamiche Alcindor, national political reporter for The New York Times and an MSNBC contributor. Eugene, I wanted to go to this first point of defense that Donald Trump raised today about his statement on Saturday, and that point being that no one is more careful about checking facts before he speaks, and he never goes off without having all the information checked.
Well, that's one of the more ridiculous things he's ever said, one of the more ridiculous claims. Obviously, he doesn't. He shoots from the hip, from the lip, from his whatever, his wherever, all the time. And that's who Donald Trump is, and it was just a ridiculous thing to say. So that's the ridiculous part of it. I mean, the tragic and appalling part of it, of course, was that he gave legitimacy to neo-Nazis and the KKK and white supremacists of all stripes by calling them nice people and saying they were just nice people out there just having a nice demonstration the night before. And it wasn't that at all. It was white supremacists holding a Klan-reminiscent torch-lit parade through the streets of Charlottesville, in which they were shouting various things, including "Jew will not replace us." This is beyond appalling, and it's how does this man continue as president? We expect the president to have some moral authority, and Donald Trump has none, zero, none.
I want to listen to what the president said today about the night before, about that Friday night torchlight demonstration, which you just referred to, Gene, in which the president apparently saw nothing at all that bothered him. Let's take a look at that.
There were people in that rally, and I looked the night before. If you look, there were people protesting very quietly the taking down of the statue of Robert E. Lee. I'm sure in that group there were some bad ones. The following day, it looked like they had some rough, bad people, neo-Nazis, white nationalists, whatever you want to call them. But you had a lot of people in that group that were there to innocently protest and very legally protest.
Yamiche, we all heard in that video of the night before them chanting, "Jews will not replace us," chanting "blood and soil," an old Nazi chant. And there's some video of that night before where Donald Trump saw just peaceful people who have an affection for Robert E. Lee statues.
I mean, for me, what's been remarkable is that I've spent several hours talking to Republicans who are just so upset. I think that what's going on here is that you have a party that really was trying to give Donald Trump the benefit of the doubt. I talked to somebody today, because I'm writing a story about this, about the idea that that this Republican, kind of as soon as Donald Trump came down from the escalator and started calling Mexicans rapists and criminals, he said that I couldn't be part of this anymore, but I understood that my party was going to still back him, and I don't fault people who maybe gave him the benefit of the doubt. That said, today, it's really, in that Republican's words, it's really the day to make the decision. This is a more reckoning for the Republican Party, and for Republicans who watch the president basically say that neo-Nazis are almost the same thing as protesters as people who were protesting them. This was a group of people who advertised that this was going to be a rally for people who were pro-white. This was going to be a rally for people who were white nationalists. So let's give people the benefit of the doubt. Even if you were someone who wanted to go to the gathering because you're very upset about the statue and you're really into Confederate history, the moment that you got to that rally and you saw that people were chanting about Jews, chanting about African Americans, chanting about all the terrible things that the Ku Klux Klan and neo-Nazis are into, as soon as you saw that, if you did not leave, then you have then become complicit in that, and that you are no longer the nice person. The nice person card basically leaves and it's out the window because you showed up and stayed and marched with a torch with a group of people that were absolutely racist.
And Gene, the White House apparently is taken by surprise by the president suddenly pulling out of his pocket his statement from Saturday, which he obviously stepped up to that microphone today to defend. And I said on last night's program, after yesterday, when he said those things that were seen to be written for a kind of standard Republican presidential statement about these events, that the Nazis and the white supremacists would still be very grateful to him as president for holding out as long as Monday and not saying those things until Monday. And they would get a very clear signal from that kind of holding out that this was still their guy. And here we have the reviews tonight after this performance today from the white supremacists, David Duke and others, saying, "Thank you, Mr. President."
Sure, they got the signal clearly on Saturday. You're absolutely right that their reaction yesterday would have been, well, he managed to hold out for 2 days, and so he's still with us. But then today, just to make it clear, he took back everything he said yesterday and went back to his Saturday views. And Yamisha's colleagues in the New York Times, the White House reporters, have a fascinating story in the paper that's posted now that basically says White House staff was shocked to hear the president express publicly views that he had previously expressed privately. So this is not, it's not a secret to them, and it shouldn't have been a surprise. What he was saying, at least, maybe they were surprised that he actually said it. But, you know, so really, you're going to keep working there? Really, this is what you signed up for when you went to work for the White House? Okay.
I think what Eugene is talking about, though, is this idea that the Republican Party has really backed Donald Trump through so many iterations and through so many statements that people across the country were both terrified at and offended with. So for me as a reporter, what I've been talking to Republicans about today is this going to be another Access Hollywood moment where everyone was up in arms, where there were senators releasing statement after statement about how this was terrible and that they couldn't back Donald Trump, when Marco Rubio and Jeb Bush were saying that they could not back someone who would speak of that way of women. Are we in 2 weeks going to turn around and say, well, that was another kind of big moment for Donald Trump, but he was able to just kind of go away and move on from that, and now we're on to talking about healthcare and infrastructure? If Donald Trump can do that, then it really is remarkable that his political career can withstand this a moment like today.
Eugene, presumably to Yamisha's question, when Republican senators and members of Congress come back to Washington and the subject goes to tax cuts, why wouldn't they get back on the Trump train?
Well, you know, my guess is they probably will, but we'll see. But they should know, and I think they do know deep down inside, this is different. This is not his personal his personal conduct. This is not him being just a crude person or not a politician or different or whatever. I mean, this is him betraying the absolute lack of a moral core. He doesn't know the difference between neo-Nazis and protesters protested against neo-Nazis. He doesn't know the difference between George Washington and Robert E. Lee, who was a traitor to the United States. He doesn't care. That he has no moral center whatsoever. And they're going to work with this guy as President of the United States. It's just appalling.
This egregious display of hatred, bigotry, and violence on many sides, It's been going on for a long time in our country. Not Donald Trump, not Barack Obama. This has been going on for a long, long time. It has no place in America.
The president decided to take a stand today to defend what he said on Saturday, but he refused, as you just saw, to actually quote what he said on Saturday. And today, many sides. NBC News is reporting tonight that a senior White House official says President Trump wasn't supposed to answer any questions today. His staff went into that event with the press with the understanding that the president would discuss infrastructure only and would take no questions. But once in front of the reporters, the president, quote, went rogue. That's the phrase the official used. The White House official said members of the team are stunned this evening by the president's actions. But when you see the video, it certainly looked like a premeditated decision by the president. Eventually, as he continued to talk, became both sides.
Well, I do think there's blame. Yes, I think there's blame on both sides. You look at both sides. I think there's blame on both sides, and I have no doubt about it, and you don't have any doubt about it either.
So the president believes there is blame for Heather Heyer's murder on the side of the white supremacist who murdered her, and the president believes there is blame for her murder on her side. And in a truly to publicly defend the comments that he made on Saturday that were greeted with sharp criticism from Democrats and, more importantly for the president, from Republicans, the president just happened to have a copy of his Saturday statement in his pocket today.
So I don't want to go quickly and just make a statement for the sake of making a political statement. I want to know the facts. If you go back to my, in fact, I brought it.
Who did you bring, Mr. President?
As I said on, remember this, Saturday, we condemn in the strongest possible terms this egregious display of hatred, bigotry, and violence. It has no place in America. And then I went on from there.
It seems today the president was reading from the written statement that he was supposed to read on Saturday. But on Saturday, he read that, but he inserted something about many sides in the middle of that statement.
We condemn in the strongest possible terms